Before start of this video, I just wanna say that God Malech, who is usually accused of participation in this sort of ritual, doesn't approve modern pedophilic and painful human sacrifice rites, which are against humanity as a whole, and he will personally devour souls of many of those individuals who practice this sort of ritual. I needed to discuss and debunk those misconceptions about him before we start discussing the topic of today's clip. And nobody really discussed this because this is extremely controversial. But I talk with Lilith for a long period of time about this particular issue, and I really need to talk about this because I don't see anybody else talking about this, and the issue we are going to talk about is extremely severe and intense in our modern society. We will talk about two different issues, or maybe one, depending on how long this video will last. We will talk about ritual rape and involuntary human sacrifice. Now, does this happen? Is there ritual rape and involuntary human sacrifice in modern occult practices, especially among the richer elites? I am certain it is real. I tapped into those events. I received the visions of those events from Lilith, and she showed me those things are happening on the extremely large scale, and it is literally expanded and fueled by the elites who rule this world. People with a lot of money, actually bankers, corporation owners, and other financial elite. They are actually funding that, and they are practicing that. Now, everybody, in my opinion, who is denying the existence of ritual rape and involuntary human sacrifice in modern Western society definitely lives in self-denial. There is so much proof for that I cannot even start, like those pedophilic scandals we see every day, entire stations for child trafficking, missing babies from hospitals, etc., etc. Only from Serbia, which is the country close to mine, more than 20,000 babies disappears from hospitals after they are born. Where those children go, what happens to them, that's the question. There are only three places those children can end. First, selling of the human organs. Second, ritual human sacrifice. Third, ritual rape. And pedophilia, of course. Now, let's examine why would somebody do those things. Why would somebody practice ritual rape or involuntary human sacrifice? The reason is really simple. They want to shock and change the collective consciousness of mankind. You see those children. When I say children, I refer to the prepubescent individuals without developed secondary characteristics of their gender, aka unable to have a sexual act, like human beings which are younger than 14. When I say that, I usually refer to the extremely young children, like for example from the birth to 7 years old. That type of thing. Why would somebody do that? Why would somebody practice involuntary human sacrifice and ritual rape of those individuals? Now, the answer is, as I said before, extremely simple. They want to change the collective consciousness of mankind and to weaken it, and to weaken the entire human race. You see, Our collective consciousness is one whole, it is one thing. We are all connected through the collective hive mind. And those raped and sacrificed children radiate extreme amount of fear into that collective hive mind. And that defilement of the hive mind weakens the collective mind, and it binds humanity to the oppression and slavery because of the generated fear, which is generated by those rights. And those rights channel extreme amounts of energy, which is sorcerously utilized by certain individuals in order to bind us to this system of the oppression and slavery. Now, according to Lilith, the baneful aspects of Saturn and are used. When I say Saturn, I refer to the planet. Now, Saturn as the planet is not a bad force, but it is a really powerful force, which, when used in a wrong way, can create terrible consequences for this race as a whole. Now, they use baneful aspects of Saturn to bind that energy they create with those rights and keep it within a collective mind in order to rule more easier when they create all of that collective fear in consciousness of mankind. And this is a really sinister and powerful sorcery, which I do not support at all, but we need to acknowledge it exists. And all of those pedophilia scandals you see, they are not just about pervert people fucking children. It's more about literally weakening consciousness of mankind than anything else. Because rulers of this world, financial and corporate elites, use everything on their disposal to bind the human race into obedience. Because if we revolt, their tyranny will be over. Because mathematically they cannot defeat us. There is much more us than them. Now, what about involuntary human sacrifice? First, let's talk about involuntary human sacrifice in ancient societies. Because many people claim they didn't exist, or it's just Christian propaganda, or it's just like some nonsense invented by biased writers. And I severely disagree. Because human sacrifice takes many forms, especially in modern society, which is so perverted and sinister. War is a human sacrifice, okay? In the beginning of our existence as a species, war was effort of the tribe, okay? Effort of the community. But right now, war, the mechanisms of war, are put in the hands of the rulers. And those people who die in war, they feed egregores upon the subtle planes, which are created by the government for the goals of the government. When I say the government, I am referring to the elites who actually stand behind those wars. So, in modern society, war is essentially massive human sacrifice for the goal of the rulers. But I am not talking just about that human sacrifice, which is more prevalent in modern society than in any other point in history. I am talking about ritual murder of people, which is involuntary and unbeneficial to them and world as a whole. It happens on extreme basis. It's much more widespread than you would think. The problem is like nobody talks about it because everybody wants to like talk about just fluffy bunnies and eggs. But they are really sinister things which are happening around us, which nobody pays attention to, really. And there is a really simple technology behind ritual human sacrifice. Moloch explained that to me because I asked about it. I wanted to know. Like, what's happening there. And Moloch explained me that when human being is killed, it generates enormous amount of energy. Now what they do is they kill an individual and they harness all of the energy created by the separation of spiritual and physical body into certain goals. Now, because the energy is extremely dense and negative due to the traumatic murder of individual, that energy which is raised in the process is the best for baneful purposes, and that's exactly why and what those people are doing. They are literally cursing and binding the rest of humanity into the obedience. And that is happening on a daily basis, more or less. Don't counting wars into consideration. In this part of the discussion, I count only like actual ritual murder, and we discussed that previously. And I will honestly talk about all of that in ancient societies in bigger detail, but I need to end this video right now. Thanks for watching. Be empowered by the night side. And in my opinion, we should rise against these unbeneficial practices for humanity. And we need to discuss it seriously and talk about it seriously, instead of engaging in pointless drama and dick measuring. We need to create a serious change within the world we live in. And I think without discussing such topics, we cannot move forward, because majority of occultists live in self-denial. Once you tap into those events and receive the visions of those events, reality of those events will become undeniable to you. You will start to notice the traces of those events everywhere, and you will realize how destructive it is for us as a species. And I challenge everybody who watched this video to call Lilith and command her to give visions of those events, in order to witness what terrible happenings we are allowing in this modern liberated age, which is enslaved as fuck. We live in a world of false freedom, and in many cases false magicians, who claim to practice magic, but in reality they live in their mother's basements without any inability to manifest anything. And we need to actually throw away our false egos and false ideals, and to confront actual problems in the world. And everybody who says I am a scammer for telling such things, and like putting attention towards talking about ritual rape and human sacrifice, I challenge all of those people to call Lilith and receive the visions of those events. Once you do that, you will realize how widespread it is, especially in more developed part of the West. When I say the West, I refer to developed or Western countries. and I think it is enough of silence about this, and we are really cowards for not confronting this and not fighting against this and not even talking about this. Thanks for watching once again. Be empowered by the night side, and we will see you later.